without these regulations, there's a lot of cowboys in the game. There's dangers, and consumers will lose their money.
Hello everyone, welcome to our first Paystrax podcast. My name is Bjarni Thor Sigurdsson and I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of Paystrax.
My name is Johannes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Paystrax.
Today we're going to review some of the hottest topics in payments, covering things like Vamp, Buy Now Pay Later, the future of cashless society and more. We will explore what's working, what improvements are still needed and other relevant news. So let's jump right in. Johannes, what is this Vamp everybody's talking about?
Vamp is a new program from Visa. It's a Visa acquirer monitoring program. And it's a program monitoring, it's about managing risk, chargebacks and frauds. They're adjusting the levels, but there's some work needed on that, I believe.
So how's the rollout gone so far? How has this developed? Do we need to change a lot at our end, the acquiring side?
Yeah, probably most acquirers need to change quite a lot, especially if you're servicing industries like subscriptions, payments, where there is some which is covered by friendly fraud. And then the fraud definition also, I believe, needs to be changed. It's not correctly used. Fraud is by definition a criminal act with intention to have a financial gain. Fraud in card payments is not a criminal act. I mean, if it would be, then there's everybody would have been arrested who either registers a fraud or receives a fraud.
We saw the changes a few years ago when we implemented systems like Visa and Mastercard have been offering some kind of solution to fight chargebacks. And we saw with the RDR, for example, we saw a lot of changes in chargebacks. So chargebacks are basically non-existing anymore, but we see a rising in frauds. Why all of a sudden rise in frauds?
Exactly. This is a good question because in the chargebacks, there's a tool to manage chargebacks, but it doesn't work for the fraud. But fraud in cards is really a strange animal because the card holder just can push a button and he registers a fraud, even if it's nothing to do with fraud. It's because he forgot to unsubscribe to a subscription.
Yeah. So you're talking about criminal act. When a cardholder does a fraudulent, let's say, he goes to his issuer and says he has a fraudulent transaction, are they then misusing the schemes?
I believe so. They should just unsubscribe rather than going into the banking app and registering a fraud. They cannot register a chargeback because they actually did the transaction with 3D Secure. So strong customer authentication. So they cannot deny that they did it.
Yeah.
But they will afterwards because they found out that they missed the chance to unsubscribe, and they just register it as a fraud. It's a misuse of the concept of fraud and also of the banking systems.
Yeah. In this one program, Visa has lowered the threshold, so now we are counting together both the chargebacks and the fraud into one, and this is very understandable because we have had a lot of success with Verify and Nethoka to drive down chargeback ratios. But all of a sudden, the new systems, Consumer Clarity, for example, and others, should be helping us fighting the fraud. But are they really helping us?
There needs to be some. It needs to be adjusted so that it's fairly helping both the cardholder, the card issuer, and the acquirer and the merchant. It has to work for every party. Currently, it's only helping the cardholder. He is getting away with receiving a service but not paying for it.
Yeah.
And the current solutions that there are not addressing this adequately. So it's not not a correct setup as it is now. So there are opportunities to correct this. But first of all, you shouldn't call it a fraud. Now it's a customer dispute. But the thresholds are going down to 0.3, 0.5, 0.7%, which means 99.3 or 99.5% of the transactions are without disputes. We cannot call it, let's not call it fraud anymore. It's disputes. So it has to be almost 100% of the transactions have to be without disputes. It's getting very, very, very strict.
Also, maybe worth mentioning that over a year ago when Visa announced this program, a lot of acquirers like ourselves, we started to work basically under the mandate before it was executed. But Visa then changed the rules a little bit just 3 weeks before launch.
Yeah,
It's a very strange way of doing business.
Yeah, it's very strange. And there are probably some politics behind it that we don't know about, or I don't know the reason why they changed it. There's some rumors about that, but normally there should be a longer period for the acquirers, for the industry to adopt to the changes.
Yeah, we see that already this is having an impact on merchants who are dispute heavy, if we can call it that. But what about the acquirers? Are they affected by this?
Well, yes, of course. The acquirer in the end is the one who's bearing the responsibility. And the burden is much more on small acquirers than it is on large acquirers, because it's small acquirers. Large acquirers, they can just have any amount of disputes. It doesn't matter. It just disappears in the whole ratio of their volume. Small acquirers like ourselves, it has much more effect. So it's a little bit discriminating in that way.
Okay. If we could advise Visa on to change this program, what would be the would be the best way to do that, to be able to service both what they are after and ourselves?
So there are many ways. You can, for example, if you have a subscription through your, if you have an Apple phone, you can go through subscription. You can go into unsubscribe. That's fine. Then you just unsubscribe. You get a notification before the next payment is due, and you go into unsubscribe. Then that's done. Of course, it should be similar with other subscription. The banking app should offer just to unsubscribe rather than to dispute. And there's several ways. I mean, we fully agree with Visa, of course, that we need to address disputes. It's not fraud. We cannot call it fraud, but we need to address the disputes. It has to be a fair game for everybody. And there are some ways to do this smoother, so it benefits the whole ecosystem and all parties involved.
Yeah, and we see that from statistics from other payment in the payment industry that that 80%, over 80% of these disputes are called friendly fraud. Basically, we showed earlier. So there's a lot of manipulation on the system.
Yeah, and the friendly fraud is not really friendly. It's just when the card holder is the fraudulent guy, and he's protected by the schemes and by the system, by the ecosystem. So he's just performing a fraud registration while he is himself benefiting from it. It's due to his own personal benefits. He's getting away with paying his dues, and he's not dealing with the merchant directly. He's going afterwards and registering it with the banks. So friendly fraud is estimated to be between 50 to 75% or 80%, I've heard, by the schemes of the total so-called frauds. And that's a lot. It needs to be addressed, but it needs to be addressed adequately, so it's fair for all parties in the ecosystem.
Buy now, pay later is another topic we have talked a lot about here in Paystrax. This is one of the alternative payments that merchants are looking at. What's your view on buy now, pay later? It has risen enormously over the years, They started with Klarna and similar companies some years ago, and we see this expanding, and a lot of acquirers have started to offer this. Not a lot of new solutions are coming in various countries. What's your view on this buy now, pay later phenomenon?
So buy now, pay later is is a very interesting product offering. Well, how it works, you buy now and then you pay for it later, and there's no interest. But if you miss the due date, then you pay heavily for it. So the provider is hoping actually that you miss the due date so that he actually profits. Because if you don't, doesn't get any income. So the setup inherently wrong, I would say.
But there seems to be a huge need on the market, and we see that year on year, people are saying buy now companies are struggling. This is maybe overhyped. It has not taken off, the same way people thought it would be, but it's still increasing. What do you think is the reason for that?
Well, there is a huge need. People want to get the product now and pay for it later. But the companies who are providing it, they either struggle when everybody pays on time. If like a normal percentage doesn't pay on time, they get a good income. But if too many don't pay on time, so there's economic cycles. Then they may have to write off a lot of bad debts, and so that's where they lose, and they lose heavily on that. So it's a challenging service offering, I would say.
Our maybe position in the market is that we are focusing in Paystrax heavily on Visa and Mastercard solutions and services. What are the schemes doing to meet, these requirements? Are the schemes investing in this themselves, or are they cooperating with those companies? How do you see that?
Yeah, so normally the card schemes, so Visa and Mastercard, they are adopting to the demands of the market. So if the market is demanding it, then they want to service it, and thereby we want to service it. So Visa has, for example, set out a product called installment payments, which is actually not a new product, but it's very similar, but it's like more structured. So you pay interest on the loan. So you get a loan to buy the product now, and you pay interest, and then when you paid it, then it's all good.
So this is a new service they are providing, basically.
It's a new service which is provided on a regional basis, on a larger basis for many countries. But it's not new in that way. It's been around in some countries for a longer time.
I remember from our days in Iceland that this used to be a big thing.
Absolutely. So this started in Iceland in 1980 something. So it's quite a few years. How many? Was 40 years?
Wow.
So, but and that's quite interesting. It has been a very successful product because it works. It works like a consumer credit. So you can buy the product now. You can even buy a car now and pay it off in 3 years through this. So the maximum period is 3 years, but also for shorter periods, like you can divide the payments into 3 or 6 installments.
Interesting. But other solutions, apart from the schemes, is there any alternatives to companies like Klarna, for example? Do you know of anyone who is coming new into the market or making some splash in the current ecosystem?
No, I think it's still kind of playing out. Klarna is, of course, the ones who started with buy now, pay later. They've been hugely successful in gaining market, but they've also been struggling all the time, and they're also struggling with profitability. And it's remains to be seen whether they will succeed or not, whether they will be able to register on the stock market or not. I don't know. I think the setup of the product is not so. There's a huge demand for it, so the market is there, and the market demands this service.
Yeah.
But I think there should be some fairness in the offerings, and I think we still are early days. We will still have to see how it will evolve. I believe that the installment payments from schemes are much more healthy offerings. So you pay for the credit. So the provider doesn't have to hope that you miss the due date to get his income.
We were at Money 20 some weeks ago and in Holland, and there was an announcement there from Visa and Klarna combined, where Klarna and Visa are going to have a card out in Klarna's name, co-branded by Visa, and they're going to offer all this solution in one card, so you can basically choose between those installments, like you said, or buy now, pay later. What kind of impact could a cooperation like this have on the industry?
I think it's well, it's a positive thing. So it's if the market is demanding it, then well, normally Visa and Mastercard are cooperating, and in the offerings. A card issued by Visa is nothing new. So you have a Visa card, you buy products, and then you have a built-in payment schedule, which is later. Then maybe this will be more like we could say cardholder friendly, and the merchant is always just happy because the merchants are benefiting from these services. It's always because they can increase their sales.
Yeah.
They will sell their products, and then the consumer credit on the cardholder side is something that the card issuer then is on his side.
I think this will be a very interesting development. I'm really looking forward to see how this pans out in the future. Absolutely. Okay, talking about payments overall, the first payment, the first currency, cash. For some reason, cash has survived everything. They survived, all the changes that's been made in the payment market for all the years. Cash is still king in that sense. And we saw that, for example, during the financial crash here in 2007 and 8, that cash became more and more important. We are from Iceland. Scandinavians are famous for not using cash. We see countries like Sweden, for example, aiming to be a cashless society. They're only doing 1% or something like that of the transactions that they're doing with cash. In Iceland, it's 6% or something like that. But we still see in Europe a lot of countries with a huge cash usage at point of sale, for example. And we have countries like, Austria, Romania, Germany even, Malta, Slovenia, Italy. All of them have over 60% cash usage still. Why do you think cash is so relevant in today's payment?
Good question. Not a clear answer, but I think cash is, well, before cash there was bartering, but cash is the main way to pay for things. You may have different opinions on the banking industry, on the banks. Maybe there's a lot of people who are unbanked as well, who are not able to get a banking service. So cash is, of course, always the legal tender.
Yeah.
And well, it has developed quite a lot, but cash has been declining a lot, mainly towards cards, but also alternative payments methods, and well, debit cards and so on. So
yeah, we see that, for example, in the Eurozone, that in 2019, cash usage was around 72%, but now 5 years later, in 2024, it was around 52%. At the same time, as cash is maybe still hanging in there and still very relevant also, we see a change in behavior in payments when it comes to usage of wallets. So all of a sudden, everybody's paying with a phone.
Yeah.
And do you think that this change by paying with your Google Pay and Apple Pay wallets or whatever they are called, younger people are using this much more? Do you think this will be a driver to maybe we will see this cash shrinking more over the period of the next few years?
yes, I believe so. I believe so. You mentioned 2019, 2024. In between there was COVID.
Ah,
COVID was, of course, a huge driver for cashless payments. So cash was converted into cards, and in-store payments were converted into e-commerce. There was a huge shift. This was beautiful for our industry, of course, because our main task is to convert cash into cards, card payments. That's our business, to service card payments. I think this will continue, and we are seeing the trend, especially in the younger generation, that their wallets are so convenient. It's all about convenience. In the end, so younger generation are skipping the cards and going directly to wallets.
Interesting. We see this. It was in Africa as well. They skipped the cards there and went straight to the mobile phone.
Yeah.
So it's very similar what happened there. But if you look at cash usage, I mean, we are still seeing a lot of cash being used in restaurants, day-to-day items, culture and sport, paying for fuel and durable goods, hotels, all of a sudden, all kinds of payments that have been used in those areas. But still, cash usage is still high in that one. What is the reason? Why do we not see, I mean, cash just go away within a few years? How is it always hanging on in there?
I think, well, there's several reasons. Of course, some don't trust the banks and the financial service providers, but we also see a quite a difference in the regions. The more southern you go in Europe, the more cash there is. And maybe it's also to do with there's more black money industry there.
Yeah.
So payments that because if you pay with a card, then that's registered. There's records of it. You cannot hide it. But cash you can always hide. I don't know. I think it will change over time, and I think the cash will. It's also to do with the generation of people. Young people or old people. Older people are maybe holding longer to their cash.
Yeah. We are in an industry where credit card usage and debit card usage is a must for us, and we see this. There's a huge market still to be earned there. So, are there endless possibilities for companies like Paystrax to grow in that space?
Well, I think so. I think we are in a really good industry. Well, on the one side, there's retail payments in general are growing year by year. E-commerce is growing year by year. Card usage is growing year by year. And our main purpose is to convert cash into cards. And I think we're doing quite well. It's not only us, it's the whole industry, of course, the ecosystem. And I think it's there will be going forward quite some increase in our business.
If I look at a lot of my merchants and I talk to them about payments, and there's a lot more credit card usage growing every single year, especially when it comes to verticals where you are paying something online, because credit cards, they give you a guarantee. You can't do this dispute, like you said, if you're not happy with the service or you don't get the service. As if you pay with cash or if you pay with account to account, you're not covered by this. Do you think this will be a main driver for people, for example, to stop using, this, let's say, traditional payment methods?
It has a huge effect. So the guarantee that you have, I mean, when you're buying something, like myself, if I'm buying something and I say, okay, well, let's see how it goes, then I use my credit card because then I have a dispute right. I have the right to dispute the transaction to get refunded if I don't get the product, if I'm buying online. So I think this is a huge benefit for the cardholder, which exactly like you say does not exist for account-to-account payments or payment initiation. If you pay through your bank account, then it's gone. You cannot get it back unless you agree with the seller to refund you. But that's maybe a steeper.
Yeah. one thing we learned as well is that it's also a huge pro for the merchant to switch to a cashless method. For example, it costs a lot of money to handle money. And merchant do not, they know this. They know how much it costs to transfer money, to keep money on stock, etc., etc. So this is also a huge cost for them, and would be a huge benefit if they can move more, transactions from cash to cards in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also if there's cash, if a merchant is accepting cash, there's risk of the cash being stolen when you're taking it to the bank and so on. So there's quite some risk there. There have been excuse me, there have been quite a few studies that say that where the cost of cash is calculated and the cost of cards is calculated and compared. And in some of the studies, the results are that the cost of the cards are lower than the cost of the cash if you calculate everything into it. Also, then with the cards, like we talked before, there's no black market in card payments. You cannot hide them. So taxes are paid from that money, maybe not from the cash. It's all registered. It's all it all exists.
So maybe in conclusion, Johannes, regarding cash, that we see that for the period of next 2 years, that there will be a huge, shift towards going cashless in that sense. But that also is driven by alternative payments. Like we talked about the wallets. Behind most of the wallets are Visa and Mastercards, for example, or local schemes. But we also see that people have started to shift towards cryptocurrency more. And everybody have been following Bitcoin, and Bitcoin has been going up and down, like crazy over the years. So that's not basically the most reliable currency for merchants to have. But now, all of a sudden, there's a lot of buzz about stablecoins as a payment method. Merchants are getting settled in stablecoins. They're accepting stablecoins from customers. Is this a hype, or is this really something that everybody is looking into at the moment?
This is a really interesting question. I don't have the full answer on it, but what we are seeing is that usage of stablecoin is growing hugely, and maybe it's good because stablecoins are building on the technology from the cryptocurrencies, which is quite good technology. But the coin is pegged to a currency like the US dollar or the euro. So it provides stability, it provides guarantees, and the payments are done wallet to wallet. So there is quite large industry evolving in parallel to the financial industry outside of the banks. And the banks, many of the banks have decided not to accept crypto, or they have their acceptance policy and restrictions. Now they're seeing, okay, we need to get on board because we're losing out. The industry is not touching banks. You can go make a whole payment flow without having any interaction with a bank. So it's quite interesting to follow up on this. We will be looking into this as well.
But from a regulatory perspective, I mean, is this wise to move into that kind of outside of the banks, or is it just the next big thing in retail?
I think the regulators need to assess and follow up on what's happening now. They've introduced regulations, the MiCA, and you have to have VASP or CASP licenses. So I think without these regulations, there's a lot of cowboys in the game. There's dangers, and consumers will lose their money.
Yeah.
But with these, then you have introduced, there's AML monitoring and management, so that's prevention. So there's, I think it is evolving. It is evolving quite fast. With these regulations, it should be more safe. But on the other hand, it could also be the players on the market are getting fewer because not everybody complies.
Yeah, yeah. We see that then if you look at the European payment markets that cryptocurrencies are not that high maybe in volume, but last year in overall in the world, stablecoin actually had more volume than both Visa and Mastercard combined, which is crazy basically. Stablecoin is connected to the US dollars. Do you think that maybe the situation in USA is affecting Europe in this sense? Do we need to have a stablecoin connected to euro instead of US dollars? What's your view on that?
I think it's already evolving. I think there's like we have USDCs and USDTs. Now there's a Euro C being developed. So, or maybe it's already out. So that's pegged to the euro, and I think that's for companies and businesses in Europe. It's more wiser to peg it to the euro, where the euro is the currency of the region. So I think there will be further. There's a lot of issues, and maybe we will have USDCs. C is for circle, the issuer of that stable coin. There will probably be more. It's very interesting to see how it will evolve.
Yeah. Today, the percentage in Europe of crypto as a currency or stablecoin is less than 10%, but we see a huge rise everywhere else. So we'll be very interested to monitor the market, but I can feel it from my merchants and my partners that this is becoming an increase. There's an increase in they're asking about this. They're looking at this. Some have already started to be settled in those currencies. But do we think that this is a hype? I ask again. But will there be a stablecoin after 2 years? That's a question some many are asking.
I have more belief on the stable coins than I have on the cryptos. On the cryptos that are not based on a stable coins. I mean, we have the Trump crypto and the Melania crypto.
Yeah.
There's many cryptos out there, and there's maybe nothing behind it. There's no guarantees, nothing. So the prices can fluctuate, the value of it fluctuates. You don't have any guarantees. So it might blow up, or everything might blow up, and in one of the days, then there's no value behind it. The full value disappears. With the stable coins, there is value behind it. It's one per one. And some even argue that it's a better trusted currency, stablecoin, than the actual currency, because the banks, well, in the stablecoins, there's 1 to 1. There's always $1 or €1 behind a stablecoin.
Yeah.
If you have the normal currencies, you have euros. You put your euro into a bank, or you take a loan. The banks collect them, and they can provide maybe 10 times higher loans to the market based on this €1. So they can inflate the currency. That's not possible with a stablecoin. So there's really some interesting areas there that remains to be seen how it will evolve.
Yeah. It's also very interesting to see what the Visa and Mastercard are doing in this. I think that they have. I don't think people know that both Visa and Mastercard have invested heavily in the cryptocurrency field over the past maybe 10 years or so, in the blockchain and in all kinds of services related to cryptocurrency. Do you think that they will be a major player in this after a few years, or will we still rely on third-party vendors in that sense?
I think they will be a major player, yes, because they tend to invest in new development in consumer convenience, payment convenience. And while they do that, if this will be prevailing, if this will gain popularity, then they will be there, and they will be providing it. And what maybe Visa and Mastercard have, they have the infrastructure, so you can use it worldwide, and there's stability, there's certainty, There's of course some costs involved, but the cost of, like we talked about, cost of cash may even be more. So I think, I think the investments will make sure that there will be part of this industry, all the payment industry.
Interesting. I think this discussion about stablecoin is just starting. I mean, there's a lot of talks about it now. A lot of issuers and excuse me, acquirers are talking about that they are going to release their own systems within few months or few years in that sense. So this is a game changer, or could possibly be a game changer for us. But we heard the same about account to account a few years ago.
Yeah.
Why didn't that not take over the market?
So account to account and open banking, it's a little bit maybe too regulated. The regulators put in infrastructure, and what's good is it's good for the consumer. It should not be costly, and there's some immediate payments. But the fact that that the cost or the price is regulated is maybe is doing bad for the industry, because in the end, if it's not sustainable, then it doesn't work. If the companies offering this cannot be profitable while offering it, then they will disappear. The offerings will go out. I think it has to be sustainable. It has to work for all the parties. Of course, there needs to be some efficiency so that it should be efficient for the consumer, and it is. But not. But if it's not sustainable, then it risks to disappear.
It'll be interesting to follow this in the future, and we here at Paystrax, we will start very soon to talk to our partners and merchants to see what we can offer to them in that sense. Yeah, so maybe to end this, Johannes, regarding the cryptocurrency, there's been a lot of talks over the years about the digital euro. How do you see that will progress in the future?
Digital euro is very interesting. It's the purpose is to create digital cash, and but it has the downsides, or the risks, or the opponents of it is related to privacy, um, and then technology. So people who don't use, and not everybody has a telephone, a smartphone, and like our grandparents. So it will never be 100% coming instead of cash, but it will change cash. I don't believe that the digital euro will be like a payment method with merchants on the point of sale.
Yeah.
There can be somewhere, but I think people will still keep to their cards, and they will use digital euro to pay into their cards, to pay their credit card bills, and to fund their debit cards with digital euro. And then they will still use the cards because that's the most convenient way to go. But it will be, there's a lot to be done there. We need to see how they'll evolve. One of the concept is that the consumer is not supposed to have any costs. So when you regulate this is going to be difficult. So the way that they're structuring this is that the merchant has to pay the cost for the acceptance and also for the card holder. Not the card holder. It's the digital euro holder in a wallet. So there's an interchange scheme evolving, which is same as is in the card business. What the regulators have been opposing for many years, and are still opposing, and but now they're developing themselves, because that's the only way to have this, to create the digital euro payment ecosystem. So it's there's a lot of factors there to be, and the privacy is probably the biggest hurdle.
And it costs money to run a system like that. It costs money to develop a system like, and it costs money to run a system like that. And that sometimes gets is not a topic. Like you said, they want this to be free for the cardholders. But in the end, there's always somebody who needs to pay for it.
Yeah, in the end, I mean, who's gonna sponsor it? Should the merchant sponsor it, or who's gonna? And the authorities say that they are not gonna. It's not gonna cost us anything. Of course, it will cost. Someone will have to bear the cost. And if it's going to be put into the rules that the pricing should be zero, then it's not sustainable. Nobody will use it. All of a sudden, it's similar to open banking. Then there's a technical glitch, but there's no money to correct it or to remediate. So all of a sudden, it just doesn't work anymore.
Great, Johannes. Thank you so much for this. I mean, a lot of topics we discussed. We could basically have a couple of hours more to talk about things we haven't touched on. We will hopefully do that in next time we will meet. We should do this more often, speak like this. Hope that you guys out there have had a good time watching us rant about the payments. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to comment it down on the LinkedIn page or YouTube page where you're watching this. Until next time, thank you so much.
Thank you.